Hello everybody, Sandey Adelaja here from Kyiv, Ukraine. Well, I'm going to be doing something special today that I started with a previous one. This is part two, but this part two is special. I want to do a presentation of my books, and this is part two. And this part two is going to be talking about nations. I want to do this just because of my burden for Africa and for Nigeria. I want to present to the world what I've been doing while I'm in Ukraine with my lawsuits and court cases that has made me not to be able to travel. So while I'm not able to travel to Nigeria right now or to other countries, I've been doing what Apostle Paul has been doing. Apostle Paul wrote most of his writings and the epistles that have now become a blessing to the world while he was unable to travel as well, while he was in incarceration, when he was in prison. I'm not in prison, but at least I've been limited to just one country, Ukraine, until my lawsuits are over. But I've also learned from Apostle Paul to do the same thing, to put my thoughts into books, into writing, and to also have faith and believe that some people will be able to get a hold of these books and use them to change their countries. I'm in particular bothered and burdened with my country, Nigeria. I feel that I can do much to help that country, but I can't go. I know that times and seasons are in the hands of God. So possibly this is what I needed to do right now. Apart from the daily broadcast and video that I'm doing, books are even more important for me. So I'm going to present to you some books that will address the Nigeria issues and issues of nations and national development that will also help you to address issues of national development in your country. Doesn't matter what country you are watching from or you are coming from. These principles will be tenable to helping build a better country, a developed country, and a civilized nation. I'm doing this in 2018, making it 58 years since Nigeria got independence. As a Nigerian who is not living in Nigeria, what can I bring to the table to contribute to the future, if not the present, at least the future of the country of my birth? Well, in extension, I have a burden for the countries of Africa, and I hope this also will go a long way to contribute to the African continent and to the nations of the world. So let's start to see what are the books we're talking about. The first book that I'm going to present to you today is called How to Transform a Nation Through the Power of Faith. This book is based on the example that I read about a country called Ireland. Ireland is a country in Europe that is you can say that Ireland is a country that was single-handedly created by the boldness and faith of one man, and the man is Saint Patrick. Some of you have heard about Irish people talk about Saint Patrick, but you might not know the story. But well, in this book, you'll be able to read the story of Saint Patrick, how he changed Ireland and built a new Ireland that we know today through the power of faith. I learned from him the principles that he used. I also learned from the Bible and from history and other inspirations that could lead to the renewal, salvation, and transformation of any nation. So all my knowledge and my studies in that regard is what I put here in this book. And the book is called How to Transform a Nation Through the Power of Faith. I know that God has given me an opportunity to prove this in the Ukraine. And I look forward to God giving me the opportunity to prove it in Nigeria, even while not being a politician. As the case may be, I know that I'm so glad that the book is already written and it will live for generations to come. And I want to believe that in every generation, somebody will get a hold of this book and use it to transform their country. How to transform a nation through the power of faith. Let's go for it. The next book that I want to recommend for my country, Nigeria, for Africa, and any other nation, is the book that is called The Power and Force of Discipline. The Power and Force of Discipline for Transforming Lives and Nations. This book is more for the person that wants to engage and take on himself the challenge of trying to change a people or a nation. I personally believe that life is not worth living if you are not going to engage in that endeavor. Living for yourself is boring. Living for success and some mundane achievements is local. The big idea is to be able to leave a footprint by changing a nation, at least in your lifetime. But there are a set of disciplines that it will take for you to be able to change not just yourself or a few people around you, but to change a whole people and a whole nation. What are the disciplines that are needed for that? What are the patterns of life that are needed? What are the values that are needed? What are the changes that are required? That's what this book will give you, to prepare you. So, no matter what country you're coming from, this will give you the power. It will give you the force, the discipline, the focus, the stamina to be able to take on the job. The power and force of discipline for transforming lives and nations. The next book here is a clarion call for everybody who has ever referred to the story of Abraham and who has ever claimed the promise of Abraham. Well, I wrote this book for you to know that the promises of Abraham is not limited to bread and butter. It's not limited to material and physical well-being, wealth, and riches. That anytime you read about the blessings of Abraham that we always say are mine, what God is actually referring to is the greatest blessing that Abraham inherited by faith, which is he became fathers of nations. If you want to claim blessing of Abraham, that's the one you should be targeting. So this is a clarion call to everybody to dare become a father. Not the father you become as a result of instinct and biological reproduction, but a father you become by the models of Abraham. This book is called Could You Be the Abraham of Your Nation? Could you be the Abraham of your nation? Well, in this book you'll find the greatness of Abraham and the secrets behind them. It could as well be that you will be that next Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Vladimir Lenin, and a host of others who've been able to lay the foundation and become fathers of their nations. How to become a developed nation? Through the dignity of labor. Some of you have heard about the term dignity of labor. How does it work? Where does it come from? How do we assess it today? Well, dignity of labor is what's responsible for the civilization that we all enjoy today. Dignity of labor was introduced and given as a gift to the world by Europeans. Howbeit, Europeans never invented it. They opened their eyes to see it in the pages of the Bible. And they turned it, dignity of labor, into a culture and national philosophy. And soon it became European continental philosophy that brought about our civilization today. The people who discovered this secret are the people we call the early Protestants. And the way it was termed is the Protestant ethics. The backbone of those Protestant ethics is what we call the dignity of labor. If this principle could change a continent comprising of at least 50 countries, and then go ahead to affect every continent in our planet today, for sure this principle will be able to change our nations that are still wrangling in the mentality of the third world. I would like to challenge you to embrace this philosophy, this virtue, and become somebody that will be remembered for forging a new course for a whole nation. Cause your nation to be developed through this virtue called the dignity of labor. So the book is How to Become a Developed Nation Through the Dignity of Labor. There was a friend of mine, or an acquaintance of mine, that wrote a book, What is Wrong with Africans? What is Wrong with the Black Man? I read the book and I was only burdened and saddened by it, because the approach in that book says that everything is wrong with us, and that, just enlisting our backwardness and our failures. So I decided to write the very opposite book, because I was already aware of the greatness in the African past. So I went to do research on the times when Africa and the black people taught and led civilization. Most people have forgotten about that time, and most people will even argue with you until they read the book that there used to be a time when black people controlled Europe, ruled the world, and brought civilization here. Hence this book, How Africans Brought Civilization to Europe. If you want to shake your own philosophy and get some boost of ego and pride and respect and self-honor and worth, this is the book. It's going to explode you. I'm going to show you where you're coming from and the future that is possible for Africa and you individually to build. We can rebuild our continent, we can rebuild our nations, and we can still lead the world. how Africans brought civilization to Europe. The next book I'll be talking about is a statement when it comes to nation building. And I think this book is going to become a classic. The book is called Discovering the Purpose and Calling of Nations. Discovering the Purpose and Calling of Nations. I put together in this book a formula that will teach you how to discover the purpose and calling of your country. There are 5 countries that I've used here as an example, where I was helping them and helping the readers to see how I apply the formula to discover the purpose of countries like the United States of America. I apply the principles to also discover the calling of England. I apply the principle to discover the country, to discover the purpose of countries like Germany, France, and Nigeria. So there are 5 countries that I've written about in this book. But by the time you see the principle working for different nations like that, there is no way you will read this book and not be able to know how to discover the purpose and calling of your country. But even more importantly, you will discover your own role, your own place, your own purpose as a citizen of that country. So discovering the purpose and calling of nations. An amazing book. This next book is a book that I wish that every Nigerian would read and every African would read. It's called You Are Born to Make Your Nation Great. Doesn't matter what nation you're coming from. I come from Nigeria, and I am adding to the greatness of Nigeria, but greater things are ahead, and I'm challenging everybody that is born in any country to see how they could make their country great through personal responsibility. So this book is about personal responsibility, how any citizen can add to the greatness of the country and actually also be able to make a whole nation great as an individual just by one virtue of personal responsibility. So you are born for something, and whatever you are born for is not divorced from the nation you are born in. You are born partly or totally to make your nation great. This other book is a very challenging book. It's only for serious-minded people. It's called The Death of Nations. The Death of Nations. Why do nations die? It's a research book full of principles and values that are responsible for the death of great empires and great countries in the past. And those secrets that you should unveil for yourself so that you'll be able to steer the ship of your nation clear from catastrophic destruction, so that your nation will not become one of those nations that die and fail, or fail and die prematurely. The Death of Nations is called. The next book is a book that can single-handedly transform my country that I'm coming from for it, which is, the book is called The Role of Elite in National Transformation. As goes the elite of a nation, goes the nation. And right now, our elites don't know the role of the elites. What we are practicing right now is aristocracy or aristocratic elitism, which is running the country to the ground and making us to become almost a failed nation. But if we could help the elites of our land to understand what they are here for and what responsibility goes alongside their elitism or elitist status, then in no time we'll be able to change the fortune of our country or that of any nation. So take on the book and let's all together open the eyes of our elites in all nations. My next book is precisely about Nigeria. Talking about is called The Nigerian Economy, The Way Forward. This book contains secrets and ideologies that could make Nigeria to become one of the top 10 economies in the world in the next 20 years. We could become the top. We could become the top 10. We could become in the top. We could come into the top 10 economies of the world. Concrete proposals, suggestions, ideas that will take us from dependency on oil or on any other raw materials or mineral resources and build alternative 21st century economy that will propel us to stand tall in the Community of Nations. So this book is about taking Nigeria from economic recession into global economic dominance. And if you are interested in the future of Nigeria, this book is a must read. The next book, which somebody read and said is the greatest book they've ever read. This person is a Nigerian pastor who was planning to leave the country until he read this book. And when he read this book, he started a movement among school students to make them read through the book. And he said every Nigerian has to read this book, and that this book will make every person who reads it to grow a wing in their two shoulders. So what's the name of the book? The book is called How to Make Nigeria the Greatest Country in the World. How to Make Nigeria the Greatest Country in the World. Is that possible? Well, you need to read it to find out. One Idowu Koyenika said something. He said, the pride for your country should not come after your country becomes great. Your country becomes great because of your pride in it. But this book goes beyond pride. This book goes to enumerate concrete steps, secrets, and strategies that could make Nigeria to become the next China of our world. The next other book is also about Nigeria, though the principles that are there could apply to any country. This other book is called How the Nigerian Economy Can Overtake the American Economy. And you don't believe it. We don't have too many people buying it. Because they don't believe it. Well, until you read it, I had somebody who read it and he said, the best book you have ever read. Let me read to you what David Cameron said. And I put that caption on the cover of the book. David Cameron is Prime Minister of Britain from 2010 to 2016. Let's hear what he said about Nigeria. He says, if the amount of money stolen from Nigeria in the last 30 years was stolen from the UK will cease to exist. Let's hear that again. If the amount of money stolen from Nigeria in the last 30 years was stolen from the UK, the UK will cease to exist. And on the basis of that, you could find out that if Nigeria didn't stop to exist, and UK is one of the leading economies in the world, that if we get our acts right, we will not only overcome that UK, but even the leading nation in the world, which is America. That's why you need to read the book. My next book is called Nigeria and the Leadership Question. I want to quote another famous international personality, this time from Germany. His name is Peter Egen. He represents Transparency International. What does he say about Nigeria? He says, if Nigeria does not succeed, who else can succeed? If Nigeria does not succeed, who else can succeed? That means Nigeria stands a better chance than any country to succeed. And the book is Nigeria and the Leadership Question, Proffering Solutions to Nigeria's Leadership Problem. Proffering solutions to Nigeria's leadership problem. We think that we have a leadership problem. Well, that is a solution for it. And that's why I wrote this book. Read it to find out about it. The next book, Only God Can Save Nigeria. Then I said, what a myth. That is a myth. If you are still one of those saying only God can save Nigeria, well, stop living in the myth world. So I'm trying to challenge that concept, that leave God out of the equation. God has already given us everything we need, not just to save and salvage our nation, but to become the greatest nation in the world. Psalms 115 verse 16 says, even the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth he has given to the children of men. I put this in the cover of the book. And this to say is our responsibility. And when you finish reading the books, people say it's like they put them on fire after reading this book. I hope that fire will begin to burn in you as well. The last book that I have here today for you, and that I hope will also help us to build a better nation and a better world, a better continent, is called How to Transform and Build a Civilized Nation. How to transform and build a civilized nation. In this book, I'm talking about the values that make for a healthy society. So 1, 2, 3, concrete. What are the value systems that need to be in place to make a nation not just developed, but make a nation to be a civilized nation and a healthy nation? I studied the history of Europe, America, and countries that are regarded as civilized countries. And I put all the requirements to be able to repeat and build civilized and a healthy society. Unfortunately, countries in Europe and America, they are quickly forgetting or abandoning some of these principles, hence all the crises and the troubles that they are going into right now. But these principles must be documented so that any nation could know the formula and the requirements that are needed to be able to build a country and make it a civilized one, an advanced one, and a healthy one. So, how to transform and build a civilized nation. Either you want to transform your nation, or you want to build it to become a civilized one, you now have the blueprint. So, on this, I will like to say, you have the instruments. Go and do the research. Go and bury yourself in the books and see how much it's going to help you to change and turn around the history, not just of your nation, but of our world as well. Thank you so much. Good luck. Peace.